Hey, how you doing? My name's Dave. I appreciate you watching. This video is going to go out over Pennant and best dual sport bikes because it's semi-important. Quite a few things to know here. These are all dyno results on my 23 300XC, the first round of the TBI bikes. So the bikes covered here, it's the non-headlight versions. This has nothing to do, these power numbers have nothing to do with the headlight versions. One thing to keep in mind is I wanted to take this bike to Bonneville and see how fast I could go. So all my testing was as true as I could make it. So what I'm going to share with you, they actually are true numbers. Why would I fool myself? I really needed to know what was going on and what changed what, because it was a big deal what I was trying to do, and I couldn't go backwards. I wasn't looking for a bunch of bottom end power. I was looking for top end. These bikes are stifled and they could use quite a bit more top end, but to get quite a bit, excuse me, quite a bit more top end and not lose the bottom, that was a big deal. I was out for that too. So these are real numbers, these numbers here. This first number, that's my stock bike. Now, all this stuff is on my dyno, my bike. If you think my numbers are high, who cares? It's the difference between the thing. It's the change, the difference between where I started with and where I ended with. It doesn't matter if somebody else gets 42 and I get 54, who cares? You're gonna get the same gain on both dynos, so keep that in mind. My stock bike, yeah, it ran 54.9 on the power, and you can see what my torque was. And yes, this is true. When I got done with this just the other day, very simple stuff. I mean, we're talking $700 here at the most. Yes, I did gain 12 horsepower. It was kind of going down the backside, but it's still major. You still could use it, and 10 foot-pounds of torque. I'm running on pump gas, 91 octane pump gas from the Shell station with ethanol. Now I will show you what I did, the few things I did to come up with this, and next video will show you really how it's built. Okay, I don't have this one captured on dyno stuff anymore. This was from quite a while ago. This basically ended in July. And this was with our first round of ECU reprogramming, because Bonneville was in August, but things happened with my family, my parents, and I just had to scrap everything and run off to Wyoming to take care of family issues. And so things got scrapped a little bit at that point. But this is where it had been left off. It was a solid 6, everything was good. It was ECU reprogramming. At this point, it was the reed strips that we've got. It was the crankcase sensor, pressure holder. I didn't really change much, you know, other than that. I mean, I had played with compression. I had played with a lot of things. I already knew what was going on with exhaust pipe stuff and compression and cylinders. I had screwed up a lot of stuff, and I knew what worked at that point. But this was good, sellable, rideable stuff. One issue with this is it didn't have enough ignition time in it. We started making ECU changes and things became radically better, but this was going on for a long time. Then I got back into revisiting it. What happened? Okay, now we're into the big stuff. This is back to your 12 horsepower thing. This isn't the run though that I showed you. One more time, I screwed up. Somehow, some way, I accidentally deleted this run of me actually running it on the dyno. There was just too much going on, I guess, but I'm not going to go backwards and do it. But now all of a sudden you got the big gains, and this was just, you know, a week ago once I started getting back into like the real testing aspect of it. So what had changed? Well, when it was a huge gain, the ECU programming we had long changed back in end of August, September. So this good stuff, if you've purchased it since then, I mean, you would have this good stuff. We advanced the ignition timing quite a bit on it and played with the fuel down low and a little bit on top, and it radically changed it. Now, come to find out, compression, too much compression always shut these things down, and when you backed off compression, it really helped them go. But with the initial programming and the backing off of compression, they were kind of cold and blubbery for a few people, especially when it got cold out. But it became very apparent at that point after a lot of testing that ignition timing was far more important in getting that crispy back and that bottom end into it than compression. Compression was power. It might have helped down low a little bit with the feel, but it held you back on top. What you gained on bottom, you lost in top. With ignition timing, you didn't. You could set your compression ratio to rip out. You could add some timing to it and get all that bottom end or more back, and maybe even a bit on the top. So between those two things, that was big. Also at this point, I knew enough about the compression side of it and everything else where I just changed the base gasket stack. And I went from the base gasket that ended in 8.0, which is about 32 thousandths, to stacking two of them up to a 1 millimeter base gasket stack. This raised the cylinder just a tad, probably didn't do much. It lowered the compression though from 230 to 205. And that was one of the big things that I already knew because I'd done a bunch of work with this stuff, cutting heads and a lot of running that you never saw. So this was where I was at. Now, since I don't have an old ECU and I don't have an old battery, the only thing that I could do was put the base gasket back to the one that ends in 8.0, get the compression back to 230, lower everything back down, and see what kind of detrimental effect that had on it, or maybe a positive effect. So that's the good stuff, right? That's very apparent, you know. And again, I just do this for myself. I mean, I already knew all this stuff, doing it for myself. Now it was just time to show you what really happens. So backing off that, or putting that compression back in from the 205 right back to the 230, squish tighten back up, port timing dropped just a little bit. I don't really think that affected a ton, but hey, it was good to know. That was proof in point that the new ECU reprogramming really kicked butt over the other thing. To be spunkier on the bottom with the feel and the snap, I mean, you don't really see that in the pull, you don't see the response, but to be way better down there and that much of a gain on top, we've got the ECU programming dialed. I don't think anybody could beat it. Now, could we get the top back down? The only thing I had to do there was I do make, you know, inserts for the cylinder head. I made them for quite a while. And I had a fantastic design that I'd cut here. And I've got about, 15 of these things around here figuring that thing out. So I put it in. The compression went right back down to 205. What do you think happened? Yeah, it kicks super huge butt. Let me show you. This is the 1 millimeter base gasket thing versus going backwards with the new dome. Surprising. And that won. I think overall that it won. Riding, honestly, it's better. Yeah, you have a little bit more on top, but you're never going to notice that unless you're super pro. It is a little bit snappier on the bottom. Next video, then you really see how it's built. It's simple. You could do it in your garage, I mean, $700, right around there. There's absolutely no way you can beat it. Pump gas, half a day, and hold on and have a great time. And it's more reliable too. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. I see you next video.